Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regular scheduled Taber Town Council meeting for May the 26th, 2025. We first off have a subdivision authority meeting, so I will call that subdivision authority meeting to order, please, and ask for an adoption of the agenda for the subdivision authority. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Just for the record, Councillor Beckering is unable to attend this evening's meeting. Item number 3, related to the minutes. Mr. Thibault.
Administration has nothing to add to the minutes, so back over to council.
All right, nothing extraordinary, I don't believe, arising questions. Councillor Brown.
I can make a motion we adopt the regular of the, you know what I mean?
What he said.
What he said, yes. I will make that motion.
All right, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 4.1, related to subdivision TT 25-0-002. Mr. Thibault.
We'll have Ms. Selena Newberry come forward and present to council.
All right, Ms. Newberry, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
So we have before us a subdivision out of our Eureka area structure plan. This particular property would be a 5-acre parcel that we're looking to subdivide out of the larger parcel. And it has been rezoned from the Urban Reserve to M2, and it does meet all of those standards.
All right, thank you. Nothing extraordinary attached to this. Pretty straightforward. All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, see none. So I'm prepared to make that required motion. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the subdivision authority approve subdivision TT 25-0-002 for Block X Plan 7819AQ, all within the Northeast Quarter, Section 8, Township 10, Range 16, west of the 4th Meridian, of no assigned civic address, with the following 8 conditions.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Just a motion to close the meeting, please. Councillor McLean, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And I will call the regular scheduled Taber Town Council meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopts the agenda as amended to allow for the opportunity to undertake closed session items prior to the timing of delegations at 5 p.m.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 3, public hearings. There are none. Item 4, adoption of minutes. Item 4.1, minutes of regular meeting of council, May 12th, 2025. Mr. Thibault.
Again, administration has no adjustments to the minutes. Back over to council.
All right. Any questions, concerns? Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Ruffert. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Business arise, and there are none. Bylaws. Item 6.1, third reading for land use bylaw amendment 7-2025. Mr. Thibault.
Mr. Mayor and council, at our last meeting, there was the second reading that took place. We put off the third reading so that administration could have a further conversation with a previous landowner. I had sent out a communication to council that we had some more conversation with the landowner, and there was no documentation that came forward that suggested that we were doing something that we were not allowed to do. So outside of that, we're just here for the third reading, and if there was any questions, I think Ms. Newberry could speak to anything if council had something.
All right, so just, where did she get to? Oh, she behind the pillar, yeah. Pillar is strategically located position, yeah. All right, just to clarify, Selena, if you just wouldn't mind, I believe we did get an email and indicating you have had some conversation with Mr. Reed on that particular concern last meeting, correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, I did reach out and talk with the family members and answered as many of the questions as I could and gave them the options that would be coming forth through as well through subdivision and through development permit applications and stuff.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Selena? Okay, thank you, Selena. Appreciate it. Councillor Sorensen.
I'd just be prepared to make a motion,
Right.
Mayor, that council gives third reading to bylaw 7-2025 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 7, action items. Item 7.1, project funding adjustment. Mr. Tebow.
So for this one, we'll have Mr. Rob Osmond come forward and explain to council what's going on.
All right, thank you. Mr. Osmond?
Thank you very much, Council. So I have two capital projects that need funding modification. The first one is Capital Project 124. This is the annual street lights upgrade project. There was a budget for $85,000 from the LGFF grant. On review, the LGFF grant people came back to us and said because the ultimate asset, the street lights, are owned by Fortis and not by the town, they can't be covered through the grant. So what we did was we went through the list of capital projects and we found capital project CP 0028, which was the Arena Auditorium sound system. It had planned for $196,000 to be funded from reserve. However, administration's been notified that Tabor Minor Hockey was successful in their application for $105,000 from the CFEP grant. And as a result, there is some excess reserve applied to that project. So what we're asking council to do is acknowledging the reserves that we had previously set aside for the sound system be reallocated to the streetlights so that we don't have to use the LGFF. The LGFF grant money will just go back into the pool for assignment to another council purpose.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, Councilor McLean?
I'm just prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
That council approves the revised funding of capital project CP 0124 annual streetlight upgrade to be funded with $85,000 from reserves, and that capital project CP 0028 arena/auditorium sound system changed to $91,000 from reserves and $105,000 from CFIP grant funding.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 7.2, response to standing item 165-2025, Arena ATM. Mr. Tebow.
So I believe we have Blake Horanek here that was going to speak a little bit to the findings around the standing item. So Blake.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rennick. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
So administration reviewed the request to investigate the possibility of installing an ATM in the Civic Center. The existing leasee is open to installing a second ATM in the auditorium space. The unit would be connected to Wi-Fi/data instead of a dedicated landline. The only cost incurred to the town would be the additional power usage that would be recuperated through the amended lease. And then some minor flooring patching if we ever take out the ATM. So that's basically our review there.
Okay, Councilor Sorensen.
Well, this is great news. So I'm happy that administration was able to work with the user and come to this conclusion. So I'd love to make this motion.
Very well.
That council directs administration to bring the amended Arena ATM lease agreement to a future council meeting for approval to include the addition of a second location for an ATM in the community center.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.3, information for council. Mr. Tebow.
The first information item is actually Blake again. So if I could have you come forward, Blake, speaking to the AMSC annual clean energy program.
Good afternoon again, Mayor and
All right,
Council.
good afternoon.
So this is just more of a corporate overview from AMSC's perspective on the Clean Energy Improvement Program as a whole in Alberta. So it kind of captures some of the highlights, the different municipalities that are currently engaged and are going through their SEEP tax bylaws. There is a note about us that we launched in October 22nd, 2024, and just a little bit of information there on the program itself. So just more of an information for council there.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising on that topic? None whatsoever. All right, Councillor Firth?
Sorry, I did have one question.
Sure.
So how much, what has the uptake been like on the CEIP program?
Sure. Yeah, so we've had 14 applicants total, 12 pre-approved for a total of $350,000 worth of project funding. These are still in the pre-approval stage, so we don't have any completed projects yet, but 12 in the queue.
All right, thank you. Anything else? No, I guess you're good, Blake. Thank you. All right, no motion required.
If I could just move on
Oh,
to item
sorry.
number 2, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yes, all right, yeah, you bet.
So we'll have Miss Amy Allred come forward and talk to us about our most amazing week with Tabor 120 and a few other celebrations.
All right, thank you, Amy.
Good afternoon, Council, Mr. Mayor. So I'm here to give an update on the 120th celebration. Of course, you know it's a free concert in Confederation Park with Kelsey Kulik, Aaron Goodvin, and headliners the Washboard Union. We partnered with Spider Entertainment and are working in partnership with them on this event. We are just out looking at the stage today. So we have $60,000 committed in sponsorships from local businesses, including our 2 presenting sponsors, which are Fortis Alberta and Power Fuels. We have VHL Construction, who is our stage sponsor, providing the construction crews to put the stage together. Lantic, College Ford, Western Tractor, Real Estate Center, Lamb Weston McCain's, and Tim Hortons are confirmed as other sponsors as well. Fortis Alberta is also going to be hosting a free family barbecue during the event. They are providing all the supplies and volunteers to do that. And PepsiCo has donated 4,000 bags of chips as well for them to hand out. We'll have a few beverage-only food trucks, non-alcoholic of course, at the event for people to partake of as well. We've also partnered with 98.1, the Ranch radio station in Lethbridge, to advertise and promote the event on the radio. They will also be here live on location that night and emceeing the event. And Cake Marketing has created an excellent website, celebratetabor.ca, which has the details of the 120th, plus all the other large events that we have in town this year. They've been placing online ads for this, so if you type in Tabor birthday, Tabor celebration, anything like that, it should be your first one you see up there. We've also contracted a 120th celebration video. I'm sure you've all seen the videographer around town, interviewing people, catching great shots, and compiling a video that will be shown between the sets. They're also going to provide reels and shorter clips that we can share online in social media. And our Clue Solvers Downtown Mystery is live. It's a 25 clue mystery that leaves you all throughout downtown with the option to stop at various businesses without affecting your score, so you can get a coffee or have lunch or go shopping at Johnson's. But it really, it takes you all throughout downtown. You see all the businesses, all the different things that we have. It's very neat to, especially for me, I hadn't actually walked downtown and looked at everything. And so this takes you a lot of places that you might not go. And it's a really fun little game. And we have 300 vouchers that we'll be handing out during the 120 Canada Day throughout the summer. So people can go try the game for free. And it also gets them downtown, which is great. So we're expanding our camping options for the week, again with Spider Entertainment, hoping people will stay for the 120th for Canada Day or come early for Canada Day for the summer games. So leading into that, Canada Day, the activities that we have confirmed are the IGA Pancake Breakfast, the flag raising ceremony, the Power Fuels live stage entertainment. We have a band in the afternoon as well as cultural performers, domesticated divas markets, food trucks, face painting, lawn games with FCSS. We're doing our first ever big truck petting zoo. We've actually had a lot of interest in that, so that will be interesting. Of course, the fire truck tours and water fight, Toonie swim at the Aqua Fun Center, laser tag, bouncy castles. In the evening on the Power Fuel stage, we're going to have Family Feud. So instead of a movie, we have a game show host coming down to host a live version of that before the fireworks. As well, the Tabor Irrigation Impact Museum will be open, and the Tabor Arts and Crafts Center will be open on Canada Day as well. So it's going to be a really great couple days that will lead into the next couple of days. I'll hand back over to Mr. Tebow, unless anybody has questions.
All right, thank you, Amy. Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the concert we're throwing there, the free concert, it's no beer gardens at this concert.
That's correct.
Okay, it's a dry concert.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Amy, and great presentation, and it seems like it's going to be a fun week in town. I was just wondering why we created another website, celebratetabor.ca. It just seems maybe we could have used our own website, so just a bit of clarification.
Yeah, do you have an answer for that, Darren?
Off the top of my head, I do not have an answer for that. Is this the one we were working with Cake on?
Yeah, I would just say that the celebratetabor.ca hashtag is a lot easier for people to find with all the main events that we have. And it also makes it a lot easier to advertise on Google, to do those sponsored ads, right? From the town page, having all that information and doing sponsored ads through Google. I don't know how that works with the town page, but having a separate page that someone else is able to do those ads and drive that traffic to that website has worked really well for us this year, and then we'll see what we'll do going forward.
That's a good explanation, thank you. And yeah, just if it was gonna be live past this year. So, yeah, I guess I'll stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Thank you.
All right, thank you again, Amy. All right, anything else, sir?
I do have a brief Summer Games update since I'm not the Summer Games expert. What you see there in front of you is almost all that I have. We have all the positions filled that are looking after the 25 different events that we've got going on, and around town we've started working on some of the projects for the facilities that didn't meet Sarah's requirements. Currently, I think the lines were just getting painted this morning on the track over at St. Pat's. And I know there's things underway with the MD to look at their motocross track and their beach volleyball down in the MD. And the MD had put forward some money for that. Outside of that, I did have a note to speak about sponsorship. So there was I think Sarah, and we had just reposted that for volunteers. The first official call for volunteers through the Sarah group came out. The town will be following up on that. We are still feeling the pinch for volunteers. There's a large number, and we don't have that number. While we have everyone who's looking after all the events, we don't actually have the 220 some volunteers that Coaldale had recommended, because I think they had less than that for their games. And so we're feeling the pinch on that. So anyone can get the word out on that on top of our social media would be fantastic. And the sponsorships, we have sort of a drop dead date of, I think, June 5th for anyone who wants sponsorship on t-shirts. So we haven't had a lot of sponsorship either for the Summer Games. It's been pretty difficult. We have a lot of sponsorship happening this year with Tabor 120 celebration and, regular Canada Day stuff. And so I think everyone's feeling fairly tapped, but we would be really happy if sponsorship could also be spread around as a message from elected officials. It would be beneficial for us. Outside of that, administration does plan on going to the MD Council and doing a presentation tomorrow. It looks like that will be myself doing that because the other people that were scheduled for that are unavailable. So I'll do my best to promote with the MD. And I think that's all I have, unless there were some questions I could try and field. Over to council.
All right, I have a couple quick ones. Just, do we have a rough number where we're at for volunteers right now?
I don't have that number. I don't know if that number is available. Yep. So Kiara is here to help me a little bit. So I've asked her, she would have some of those details that I knew I wouldn't have. So
All right, Kiara, welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So for volunteers, we're looking about, in 2018, we had 345. Coaldale last year had like 230. And this year we are at 40. So not
40,
enough
wow.
that we are looking for. So hopefully in the next couple weeks before the games, we can start
Do
gaining those
you have a
volunteers.
deadline for that, for when they can sign up?
We can take volunteers up until June 5th.
Okay.
We can take them after June 5th, but t-shirt size
Oh, right.
is not, you're not going to guarantee your t-shirt size. But
Right.
yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else?
The fourth item on there was the council resolution made by Councillor Firth asking about the 43rd Street connection between 56th and 50, is it 4th maybe? Anyways, the new piece of road. So administration has already put calcium on the road, which I think council knew. Since our last meeting, we had put some 30-kilometer-an-hour signs up on each end of the road. In addition to that, it's starting to get some natural washboarding that's taking place, and normally the town would go in and flatten that out, but right now we're not so inclined to go in and flatten that out, so we'll leave that there as some natural speed bumping, we could say. Administration hasn't really heard anything back from the public since we got those letters. I don't know if council has heard anything further. Outside of those measures and short of actually closing the road, we had discussed moving some concrete blocking. I think we might take a step back on that and just maybe talk with the traffic committee as a group just to see, there's some concerns about putting, unless you're going to do the entire way, there's concerns about restricting it and then someone running into something. So we might need to have a bit more in-depth conversation around that, but I was more curious if council had heard anything positively or negatively more about the road. We did just do street sweeping there today, and there was a ton of rock that had made its way on to the asphalt. So I use that road myself each day, and I saw the street sweeper was there today cleaning that up. But I imagine it doesn't take long for it to make its way back onto the asphalt. So at this point in time, that's what administration has done. And I didn't know if council had heard or wanted to see anything different. We are still working on those pedestrian lights for the crossing. Coming out of Westview, so that will also help from traffic perspective.
All right, and nothing timeline-wise when that can be actually done properly, asphalted included?
So as mentioned at the last meeting, there's once 56th Avenue that happens, which is supposed to be this year, that would trigger the official development to take place, which is the responsibility of the developer. And that would not be a this year project. That would certainly be at best a next year project because we haven't seen any development permits for 56th, and the triggering of that, I mean, I'm sure it would take them at least a year to get themselves together. There is a service that has to go underground yet. I can't remember which one it is, if it's Storm or which one it is, but one of the main services aren't there. So that would have to be done before it would be asphalted. So that's as much. I don't have a real timeline. I can tell you it's not this year, I guess.
Right, okay, that's, I guess in one sense it improved a lot of things out there and created some other problems as a result. So I don't know, where's the happy medium, right? But I guess I think that the speed signs help, and I would say like the washboard natural is not a bad thing at all. It's that's certainly deterrent. And I was over there last week, doing the 30 clicks, and the washboard shows up in a truck too. So any smaller car varieties would certainly be less inclined to be acting up on that stretch, for sure. So short of any major potholes out there, I guess, why not leave it, right? I don't see that as a problem. Anybody else see that problematic? Yeah. Okay. And I have not heard anything further. I haven't heard any other councillors. Nobody else as well since that's all came out initially. Okay, great. All right, thank you for the updates. Okay. Again, no motions required for those. Moving on to item 7.4, department reports. I'll go through them individually. If you got any questions, just please ask and advise it accordingly. First off, recreation report. Economic development report. HR department report. Corporate services reports. CAO reports. Administrative service reports. Fire department reports. Engineering and public works report. Treatment facilities reports. Facility management report. And planning department report. No question whatsoever. Okay. No motion required for that either. Moving on to item 7.5, mayor and council reports. Councilor First, can you start us off, please?
Sure. So this month, I decorated smile cookies at Tim Hortons to raise money for the FCSS Do Crew. Mine weren't very pretty, but they tasted good. I also attended the Tabor Chamber of Commerce joint meeting with the town and the MD. Some video footage with Councillor Sorensen for the Tabor 120 video. Tabor Special Needs Barbecue for the Community Disability Services Professionals Appreciation Week. I met with a business owner that had a concern, wanted to chat. Tabor, the W.R. Myers grad this past weekend. And Tabor and District Community Adult Learning is looking for board members. So if anybody knows of anyone that is interested or would be a good fit for that board, we would certainly like to talk to them. And also the Southern Alberta Summer Games meeting, and as previously discussed, we are looking for volunteers. So yeah, if anybody wants to volunteer, we'd be happy to take them.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too attended the Tim Hortons Smile Cookie fundraiser, although briefly I was called away to pick up a child from school. I also attended the MD Chamber Town Dinner and also my other required meetings, although I did miss one this past month. And that is all I have to report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going out of order.
Yeah.
Yeah, I attended all of my regular meetings. We did some video footage for the I keep on saying Canada, the Tabor 120. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, I think that the Smile Cookie Days was very prosperous for both communities. So I think that was great. And again, I attended the Southern Games volunteer directors meeting, and we are looking for volunteers. So just, I know some people are waiting to see what their summer holidays, might have planned, but just please volunteer, and it's for even just an hour or two. It's not for the whole day. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Redford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I learned how to make balloon animals at the Tim Hortons Smile Cookie thing. That was pretty fun. I can still do it. I got to do some videoing for the 120 down at the Royal Hotel, which will be exciting to see. I attended the Tabor District Housing AGM, and it had good attendance. Senior rodeo, I don't know if it's a pro rodeo, was just this over May long, and went really good. Weather was a little cooler, right? And that's it. I attended the meetings I was able to attend. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended all the meetings I was able to attend and whatever events I was able to as well. Nothing else to report.
All right, thank you. And I attended a variety of meetings as well as required, and/or document signing requirements, contract signing, etc. Also, as far as events, I did attend the DQ Blizzard fundraiser day as well as the Legends Rodeo event. That's another really big event. Went over really well again this year. I attended the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints temple groundbreaking in Lethbridge. Nice event there as well. I also attended the Buster's Donair Pizza grand opening. The Tim Hortons Smile Cookie fundraiser campaign for our FCSS Do Crew, with our group raising $11,600. So thanks to all the many volunteers and council participants as well that attended there, and everybody had a lot of fun with that. I attended the Parkside Manor birthday and 50th wedding anniversary for Jerry and Joyce Fawns. I also attended the tri-party meeting with the town of Tabor, MD and Chamber, as well as the VE Day 80th anniversary celebrating the World War II ending of the war in Europe at the Cenotaph. I also attended the McHappy Day at the McDonald's restaurant for the Tabor District Housing Foundation for the Ronald McDonald House fundraiser as well. And I attended the Horizon Christian School W.R. Myers grad presentation, as well as the D.A. Ferguson Talent Show. I also attended the Senior Rodeo, which was a pro rodeo, Councillor Redford. And that was very well done, and a lot of great competition there, and local area winners as well. I didn't. Myself and my partner Tammy got to the final, so we were down to the final pair out of 13 pairs that were competing. So we got to the final, but couldn't quite come through. Unfortunately, you know what? We were the full width of the arena. Like that's the farthest I've ever gone with that. That's a long way. I couldn't get a line drive back to me, and I couldn't corral it properly. So it was a lot of fun anyway. I also attended the D.A. Ferguson CNRL sponsored barbecue. I also part of the video footage for the 120 special anniversary birthday celebration, and I attended the Tabor Special Needs Appreciation Barbecue as well. Attended W.R. Myers High School graduation ceremony, and also attended the Tabor lacrosse game with the Tabor Chaos against the Calgary team under invite there, and Tabor handled them quite well. I believe it was 18-7 was the final. So very good team, and that's a very aggressive, very exciting sport as well. So that would be my report, unless there's any questions from anybody. No motions required as well. Moving on to item 7.6, standing item council requests. Mr. Tebow.
Okay, so we'll wander through these. Councillor Remford's Resolution 61 is considered complete. That was for the rail that we'll be looking at hopefully getting a grant for. Councillor Firth, we discussed the solutions tonight. Didn't really touch on pedestrian safety other than all those calming measures would hopefully assist in the same way, slowing people down. Mayor Prokop, the installation of a wheelchair accessible swing still in progress. Councillor Sorensen, looking at the land use bylaw for the municipal planning still in progress. And Councillor Sorensen for the installing of ATM, which we discussed tonight. Councillor McLean, looking into the feasibility of signage. We are still working on that, Councillor McLean. And then last one being Mayor Prokop, looking at that Barton Drive intersection over by No Frills, still in progress at this point in time. That's all that we have on the list, so back over to council.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the items raised? None whatsoever. All right. Any new standing item council requests? Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the Summer Games directors meeting, there was some conversation as to the town owns this trailer which we use during Corn Fest to fill water bottles for those that bring their own water bottles. And there was the organizers were wondering if there is the ability to use this trailer at the Summer Games. And so I was wondering if administration needs time to look at that and bring it forward to another meeting.
Mr. Tebow.
We can just take that internally and look at that. I almost think the question has been asked internally already, but I don't know what the answer was. I don't know why we wouldn't either, but there might be something. So administration can definitely bring something back, and I can do that via email. It doesn't have to be a motion made to look after that in this instance. We already know that's a thing. So
is that under the Public Works control or Fire Department control?
Public Works.
Public Works. Okay, so we've allowed that for other, like Corn Fest for sure.
It has been at other events for sure.
Yeah. So it's just something we can look into, and hopefully that's been an ask and reasonable ask. Absolutely.
If I can just add, like maybe during the whole week, because the 120 birthday, there's going to be a lot in attendance, and we need some water there, and for the Canada Day celebrations, and then also for the Summer Games. So it seems like it would be well used.
This area would be the highest traffic area, right? So yeah. Okay.
High traffic. It's portable, I think, so maybe they can move it around.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Any other standing item council requests? A light day. Okay. Yeah.
They have enough to work on already.
Okay, very well. And delegates are next for 5 p.m. So we can just move into closed session, deal with our some closed session items, and or be back here for our 5 o'clock delegation. So make that motion. Councilor McLean, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried. Now, thank you. We have our delegation here. Don't mind starting a few minutes early. Mr. Thibault, item 8.1 for our delegations.
Great, so we've got Mr. Ken Holst here, and Ken, if you could come forward, you could either sit or stand at the podium and turn on the microphone and give us your piece.
Mr. Ken Holst, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good to be with you today. There's a little bit of a storm creeping up, so if the thunder crashes while I'm in here, it's not me calling down the powers of heaven to cause anything here or anything like that. It's just a natural process of storms up there, so hopefully it stays away and we don't get any hail. Yeah, again, thank you for allowing me to be here, and I guess a couple things that I maybe want to just be very frank with off the start, if I could, and I think that will maybe sort of help the process a little bit here today. I understand that this matter of honeybees has been before council before. I know that it's not too old since the bylaw has been put into Taber in regards to restricting honeybees. But basically, I don't know if there's been proper information and proper situations in the past. And so that's why I want to be kind of frank with you today. And just kind of give you just the goods here. And I've got some nice slides that we can look through and some information in there that I think that's important. But basically, here's the deal. Bees have taken a real hardship this winter. Let me back up a little bit. Recently, I get on these little tangents where I find an idea and I just can't stop learning about stuff, and recently it's been bees. Bees are so fascinating. It's unbelievable. I've taken probably about 20 hours of courses in the last 2 months and watched probably that again in YouTube videos, learning about them. And it is fascinating. It is unbelievable how fascinating these are. And so that's where my curiosity is starting to come. Back to my story. In this last winter, in the United States, 70 to 90% of commercial honeybees were killed. An incredibly high number of honeybees were killed. And it is creating a massive fear on food production for this year and in the coming years. 65% of grown food in the United States uses pollination. And so they don't know what they're going to do. We're talking potentially billions of dollars. Canada saw a problem as well this winter, but not nearly as severe. We're talking somewhere, depending on the part of the country, Alberta specifically is in the 18 to 27% kill off of honeybees this year, which is an impact in itself. So am I saying that allowing a few hives in Taber is going to cure the world hunger because honeybees are there? Obviously not. That's obviously not the case. However, with that being said, with the increase of agriculture in this area in regards to the need for pollinating, we know about leafcutter bees and they're fascinating on itself. I've learned a lot about those as we've insured a lot of those big producers. But there is a greater need in the area for honeybees and there's a shortage. In the town of Taber specifically, let's talk about that. There is definitely a need for pollination in regards to gardens. People are growing more food for themselves. For trees, a lot of trees are dying. The golf course, for example, has planted, I believe, up to 100 new trees on the course. Most of them are flowering trees. And we are going to have a reduction in bees that are going to be coming through to be able to pollinate there. So that is the real need. And with the understanding that I have now of honeybees, they are not dangerous. We think that bees are dangerous. We think that people are allergic to them and that, it causes a lot of problems. But those are wasps. Those are different types of bees. Those are different types of things. We all have had situations where in our families we've got cousins or whatever that we may not be happy with and make us look bad. Well, bees have that as well. Wasps and those types of sort, their cousins from wherever, make them look bad. So again, my bottom line is we have a need. We definitely have a need. They are not the big scary monster that we think they are. And we have a great idea, or I have a great idea there's a great idea here that would allow you to be able to do a trial, and we'll talk about it in a second, of allowing honeybees with regulation. I'm not saying opening up honeybees completely. Let's regulate them. Let's put strict rules around them. They need to be controlled. They need to be done properly. Absolutely need to be done properly. And if doing so can be a real benefit and a real need. In looking at other communities that we normally get compared to a lot, Lacombe being one, their regulations on bees are a great source. I think they're a little over-regulated, but they've got some great regulations on there. And so that's the cut to the chase. Bees are not scary. We really need them. We have a plan. Okay? So if we could just quickly maybe go through these slides, because there is some information in here that I just will kind of support that. So this is really interesting. Alberta is the largest honey producing province in Canada, generating 17,775 metric tons each year with a value of $100 million. Alberta still imported 779 metric tons of honey last year. There are 1,950 beekeeping operations in Alberta, maintaining 303,000 bee colonies with 25 billion bees. At any given time, especially when the trees were in bloom, it's estimated even with the reduction this year, there probably were 1 million bees in Taber. And I went to going back to the danger part, I went to the hospital. I talked to several doctors. And some of the newer ones that have been here for 10 years or less have never ever dealt with a honeybee sting, ever in there. Some of the ones that have been here longer don't think they do, but they cannot remember if they did when the last time was, that they had a honeybee sting that they dealt with at the hospital. Okay, next slide, please. Honeybees are essential pollinators, as we know, we think about them in regards to the agriculture, but here grow fruits, vegetables, and crops. And me personally as a gardener, I've seen a reduction in some of the plants because even in the last few years, the bees are out either more in the agriculture area or whatever the case may be, but some plants are seeing a reduction in pollination because of it. They live in colonies of 50,000 to 60,000 members with a single queen, and a queen can lay up to 2,500 eggs in a day. Just fascinating. And they take 21 days till they hatch, so potentially, you can have a lot of hives in real hurry. Next slide, please. Just some things that I learned, and if I encourage you, if you're ever bored and want to learn some fascinating things, how they communicate through a waggle dance. Most of the hive are females. Females are the only ones that sting. Males can't sting. The queen bee, as she lay eggs, can determine whether or not to fertilize that egg. And if she does, it becomes a female. If she doesn't, it becomes a male. And again, I mentioned that, when I wrote this, potentially there was 1 million bees in Taber at that time, which is even low. Next slide, please. So one of the concerns and one of the regulations that I saw in Lacombe was against swarms. And I want to talk about, that's probably the biggest risk is swarming. And what is swarming? Swarming is when a hive gets too full. And again, the nature of it and what they can sense and how they can do things is fascinating. Well, this is one of the things. They can sense, hey, we're getting a little too full. We're getting a little cozy here. I don't quite have all the room that I want. And the queen will take off with half of that hive and go look for a new home. And so they'll take off. They'll generally find a tree nearby where they'll gather for 4 or 5 hours, whatever it takes for other bees to go out and find a new spot to start a new hive. And so they'll go out, find that, come back, say, hey, we found it, boom, and they go and they create a new hive. If those are maintained properly and split properly and watched, and again, all the instruction that I've had, it's pretty easy to do, swarms are very easily prevented. And if you know what to look for, and that's one of the regulations that definitely should be in there to make sure that swarms are not done. That's really the only risk potentially, and again, would be very rare if they were to swarm and then maybe find under Mr. Thibault's shed or something like that. But again, they normally would look for something much better that they can start out. They can go up to 3 or 5 miles. They would probably go out of town and find a spot there. Next slide, please. This is the piece about wasps. Wasps are not honeybees. Wasps are very aggressive and frequently sting people. They go after your food. They go after everything. I've talked to several people in different communities that have honeybees, and they can have dinner parties in their yard, up to 20 people, and people don't know they have hives there. Bees normally, as they come out of their hive, they go up 15 to 30 feet straight up and then go to where they want to go. And when they come in, they come the same way. They don't come to where your food is. They don't come to where you're sitting. They don't want to be around you. When you go in there and start opening up that hive and start grabbing their queen, they may say, hey, mister, that's ours, leave her alone. But other than that, they are not aggressive at all. And this isn't something new. This really isn't. Honeybees have been cultivated by people for thousands of years, with honey found in the tombs of Egyptian pharaohs. And they're not exotic. They are under the exotic bylaw. Bees are not exotic. Next slide, please. So here's the request. We think that it would be great if we did a trial. A trial, maybe 5 people that would be registered, have up to 1 or 2 hives in their yard over 2 years. And the reason for 2 years is because this year now is basically too late to get a hive started. So you wouldn't really be able to test that for at least another year. But let's do a little bit of a trial, see if there aren't any problems. Let's, through that, as we do that, build the regulations that could be there. Let's use other towns that have been successful in this. Let's be able to build that through a trial. Now that leaves an out if there's a problem, leaves an ability to change the regulations if there is an issue, or continue on to be able to allow people to do an amazing hobby that isn't easy, it takes a lot of work, but to be able to help the area in the problem. There's some indication that that 70 to 90% kill off in the US last year will happen this winter in Canada. And they really can't be sure because there's probably 6 different factors, 3 main ones of what caused that kill off. So create a 2-year trial period to allow up to 5 trial resident locations with a maximum of 2 hives in each location. This would allow bylaw 23-2021 to be removed and replaced by that, and then facilitate that trial resident's return with recommendations. So my ask, and I know a lot of times you get these delegations with, well, what's the ask? My ask is to direct administration to do that, to either research that or let's put forward the ability to do a trial, see what happens, and let's help ourselves by doing it and finding out what really the goods are.
All right, thank you, Ken, for your presentation. Just a couple of questions. Yeah, for me, just right out of the gate, interesting. I wasn't sure, I knew about the die-off, it was a concern in the States, but what's the main reasons behind that?
Well, mites have always been a problem, and there are a way to control mites. There's some really interesting ways, but they, because of the type of winter they had, their mite situation was worse, and so some of their control measures weren't able to control them properly.
So the mites getting into the hives somehow?
Mites, these little mites, yeah. And
right?
There's ways that you can treat them, and the treatments of those have to be at certain times so it doesn't impact your honey, right? And then they fall down through a screen and can't get back up. The bees are amazing. They fight against them like crazy. If a wasp got into a hive, and again, I'll go over time, but again, it's just so fascinating, all the things that I've learned, is a wasp will get in and they'll, one per second, they'll start biting heads off of bees. They're horrible. And the bees, the way they attack them is they heat that wasp to death. Bees can generate, with the flapping of their wings, amazing amount of heat. That's how they keep the queen warm all winter. They stay in there when it's minus 40 out, and they just swarm around that bee, and the inside ones go to the outside and get cold, and then come back in, and they're just can create an amazing heat. They find that wasp, they swarm around it, and overheat that wasp and kill it. And that's how they protect themselves. But mites, they protect against them. So there's that. And then there's a new virus that has been found in the U.S. in their hives, and they're not sure what it is or what it's doing. And
just showed up for some reason.
And then the probably one of the largest ones in the agricultural areas is the increase in pesticides.
Okay, right, that makes sense. Yeah.
And different kinds of pesticides as we go to more Roundup ready things, and as the GMO changes, which I'm not against, but it's just a byproduct of what we're doing in our agricultural areas that are killing off the bees.
All right, thank you. And then you say that it hasn't happened in Canada just yet, but they're expecting
something we
similar.
definitely saw some this year.
Yeah. For some of the same reasons?
Yeah, for some of the same reasons.
Right? Okay.
And again, the type of winter being, and the exact details of the winter, I'm not sure, but they're not sure, but they're worried that is going to spread into a larger area. So.
Right, right.
But we did have definitely an impact this year, so talking
Right.
to Scandia Honey and that sort of thing, they themselves were just under 20% kill off.
Is that right? Yeah, you know, and hives been around for a long time, different locations, generally in the rural somewhere, but we have had hives here, I don't know if it's every year, but for sure just off at this trout pond entrance, right? That's actually MD
Right.
area, but it's really right at the edge of
But
town.
bees travel, up to 3 miles. So
Right,
if you
yeah.
were on the annexed edge of Tabor with
Yeah.
20 hives,
They're coming in Tabor, yeah.
they're here regardless.
Right, no, I understand.
It doesn't
yeah.
change
All I'm
that.
saying is it was okay there, and I don't think there was ever any concern about that for anybody, any user groups at all out that way either. So
Yeah.
interesting that never came up as a problem previous.
Right.
Councillor Firth?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple questions.
You bet.
Do you know of anybody, like, is there local interest in beekeeping? Like, is there people
there is.
locally that would like to do?
There is. I've talked to, like, if we did the trial of 5, I have 5 people that would be ready to go that have taken some of the training already, not all as much as I have. Would like there is a bee association in many areas. A lot of the areas around the province, a lot of communities have a bee association where they continue to help each other in all these aspects, get training. There is one in Lethbridge. I've reached out to them and they would, welcome us with open arms or help us start out our own bee association in town if that were to be able to continue, right? And so there definitely is that interest that's there. And again, just to add to that, although it can't be open just to anyone, just because you have an interest and think that would be cool, we have to make sure it's regulated, one, for the sake of the bees, and two, for, just how that they're dealt with. And it's not going to be a kid's toy thing, but great honey. So.
Yeah, just to clarify, Ken, you're talking 5 test locations. Would that be spread out, or how would that look?
Yeah, it would be 5 citizens anywhere in the town of Tabor. We would receive applications from them. Like I said, we could open that up, or I've got 5 ready to go, or whatever, however you'd want to manage that.
All right.
But yeah, they wouldn't be concentrated in one area. They potentially, depending who they are, would be. And going forward, if you were to increase from there, if everything worked out, you would have, like Lacombe, if you looked at that, they have an application process where they come in. You've got to be able to understand the Alberta Bee Act and do that. You've got to take this certain training. You got to make sure that you don't put more honey risers above it only to a certain height of stack and all of those things, right? It's really interesting, really regulated and smart. To be able to do. And again, we want people to be educated in it and learn more. And the bylaw right now allows from an educational perspective to be able to do that under regulation in the town of Tabor. And I think because of the amount of work, probably, that wouldn't be the case, but we should open that up. Let's use this educational thing. I'd love to have the schools come and tour and show them and teach them about it. I mean, I can't stress it enough. It's miraculous. You can't even fathom what these bees do. And science doesn't even understand it. They haven't explained everything bees can do yet. So it's unbelievable. But that's just another thing too. Let's bring the schools to these places, and
Sure. Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Your enthusiasm is certainly infectious. The reason we talked about this last time actually was that one of the local schools did want to put a hive in, and I'm not sure why that didn't end up coming to fruition, but yes, it would have been fascinating. You mentioned Lacombe. Do you know any other communities in Alberta? And I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I haven't researched a ton of them. I know there are a lot, and the only reason why I did that is I researched all of the bee associations and which communities were involved in that. So I did make an assumption there is some allowance to that from an urban perspective because they are urban associations. Lacombe is the one specifically why I wanted to go to because back in my days as police commission, whenever we were doing anything with the police, we always used those type of communities that were very similar to us.
Right.
And so I picked it being very similar to us and kind of looked at, and I think we can do, and through administration, or I could help or whatever, through best practices of some of these other communities, what they've done and what is working from a regulation perspective and to put it into place. We don't have to invent it.
That's exactly what I was thinking, is that if we can speak to some of these other municipalities and see if that's what's working, what's not working.
And what problems that they have.
Exactly.
No use reinventing the wheel scenario, right? Yeah. And I just, in all fairness, like Ken, really good presentation, and definitely have a great passion for this. That's great to see. We allowed it educationally a while back, as Councillor Firth indicated, it didn't come through. They didn't follow through for some reason. I don't even know the full details about that. But we did allow that. Was it for a trial, Mr. Thibault, for the 1-year trial initially?
I don't recall the words trial in there. The We just went ahead, and as long as it was for an educational purpose, I don't believe there was a trial assigned to it.
And saying that, there was some neighborhood requirement too, right? As far as having.
There was some
neighbors
consultation
on board with-
requirement, yeah.
So
And in the
what-
bylaw now, sorry to interrupt, Mayor.
Yeah, sure.
In the bylaw now, it's where it specifies for an education, it sets out some really
Yeah.
good regulations that are there.
Okay,
Lacombe
yeah.
has some that are very
Yeah.
similar to it. One of the interesting things that I saw from a community in the States that I did see in regards to their bylaws was what's called a fly perimeter. And so it's basically fence or bushes and trees, even though they still go straight up, you can almost do a little perimeter with bushes and trees and fences that almost force them to do that, even though they naturally do that as well. But that was interesting, even though it doesn't really happen that way. That's the type of things they put in. So it's limitless as far as what you could put in as far as requirements, right? You don't want to be over restrictive so that no one can do it. But again, going back to the fact that these aren't the monsters that we think that we're letting out of the cage, right?
Right, Counselor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and heck, maybe I want one of these hives in my backyard. Or I'll just come to your house.
Sure, come on over, tap in some honey.
Yeah, so I'm just interested in how we would police this, because I think there's people that are gonna be very enthusiastic about it and, go all gung ho. But then, what happens when maybe they don't tend to their hive and then things go amok?
Right. No, it's a great question. And I think that's where the association could help as well. If we could form an association here that would be able to, one, educate, but be able to do spot checks for you. I know from a bylaw perspective now, this actually probably would be easier from a bylaw and an enforcement perspective because right now it's totally restricted. So if I, were this week to go and put hives in there with no restrictions or whatever, that would pose a bigger problem for Chief Abella and his staff to be able to go in there and not know what they're walking into and that sort of thing, right? So I think through this regulations, we can have that. I guess whatever administration or council would want to put in place for that as far as being able to police it. I think, with Lacombe, what they're doing is they are subject to regular checks to make sure they're following that. Here's my documentation. Here's the training that I have. Here's, because it's smart as a beekeeper anyways to keep a log, and there's a lot of logs to say, I checked my hives on this date. It was, 70% full or 80% full. I added another box on top for, to check for swarming, or I split it at this point in time. That documentation should be there, and so that would be an easy request to request that documentation, those logs, be an easy check to make sure that they are following along with that. And I don't think it would be cumbersome or costly to be able to put that into place. And if we wanted to form association, that could form association, and some of that duties could fall on that association as well as they work hand in hand with the town.
All right, Counselor Rufford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's Mr. Holst. So you've seen like in the bylaw, this section 7, that is for the education.
Correct.
Stuff.
Yep.
You looked at them, you don't think them rules is what stopped it? Like, you know what I mean? Like the regulations we have set in, is that going to stop everybody from doing it? They won't be able to follow them and,
Because, Councilor Renford, to be honest with you, if you're going to do it and do it properly, you should be doing all of those regulations anyways. Those regulations aren't restricting from how you want to do beekeeping. If you're doing beekeeping properly, all of those things are already checked off the box. And I think why others maybe haven't, or maybe the education system, you can't just go in and say, I'm going to put 5 minutes, a week into this. It takes some work. And watching some of these guys and what they've learned, and the learning curve is pretty immense. So it does take some of that. And so to accommodate and to check off all those boxes and to be able to show that I've done this, to be awarded to be, one of these 5 or more in the future, it takes some work. And that's what prevents people from doing it.
yeah, just a follow up.
Sure.
So yeah, your thought is you can't just willy-nilly this, maybe like, if you get a dog or say it gets a puppy, and stuff like that, you think there's a lot more to this that it would really kill a lot of the people
Absolutely.
that were just doing it for the...
Through COVID, everyone got a puppy, right? And then so, all of the shelters are full all over North America because all the puppies.
You don't see that with
This isn't going to be, there's not going to be an adopt a bee program in a month.
Okay,
Right?
that's good.
All right, Counselor Sorensen.
It was kind of asked and answered as to who was going to facilitate the inspections. So maybe the association, but maybe it would fall back to bylaws. That would be something that we'd have to work out.
But I think they would be very simple and again, cost effective because of the documentation that I think we could put in as part of this, that documentation had to be there. And again, a good beekeeper should be doing that for the health of the hive.
Right, just for clarification, Mr. T, about the consultation piece, that's supposed to be done within a designated distance of the neighborhood?
I actually don't know that answer, Mr. Mayor. Do you have the bylaw in front of you? It says, I just don't know what the answer is.
I know that section pretty well. What?
I just wondered about, I remember that being a requirement.
Immediately
Yeah.
adjacent neighbors, immediate adjacent neighbors shall be defined as property that is contiguous to another state. So if you're, yeah, you just.
So the immediate neighbors are supposed to be aware of that, and they have a problem with that, then what? If your neighbors have a problem with it?
And actually, the bylaw says you're to notify your neighbors,
not
but
a
you're,
request
but,
for permission.
but you're not asking for permission. It says
It's just an
specifically that you're not
awareness
asking
only.
for permission.
Okay.
The notification to neighbors is not a request for permission.
That's okay. All right, thank you. Councilor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm totally in favor of this. I think it's a great idea. I have a friend actually that does bees out in Fort McLeod.
Oh.
And I've been in their backyard, and it's true. And you can see it. They literally follow this flight pattern, and they go up, and then they leave, and then they come back, and they go into the hive. And you've been out, like I've been outside in their backyard, and you can see bees, but they're not bothering you in any way. He does.
Well,
He
anyway-
makes his own honey, and it's great. Anyways, I think it's a good thing, and I'm just trying to maybe quell some nervousness around the bees. But it's true. They do follow. They go up, and then they fly away, and then they come back, and it is true about their flight pattern. It is, and I've seen it. I'm
Well,
just saying.
and right now, if you have any flowering trees in your yard, you would have heard this bring a buzz. You go out in your yards and you would have heard a buzz on your trees. And really, it's no different, right? I mean, if you talk millions of bees that potentially are in here, and if you have 5 hives at, an average of 30,000 bees each, it's still a pretty small percentage, right, that you're adding there. But again, could help the area because, we're seeing less and less in bees and more people growing their food.
Right, and I can support that as well. I like the idea, like you talked about the regulations, obviously key, and as I said, if they're, the beekeepers are doing what they should be doing anyway, that's just kind of natural trend to follow, right?
And that's where the association is a big part of that, because they
Right.
should hold those toes to the fire for those people regardless,
Yeah.
because we care about bees, we care about the proper use and we don't want a bad name
Right.
out there. We don't want those
Yeah,
cousin wasps coming and making bad names for us, right?
yeah, exactly. All right, thank you. Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very good presentation, Ken. You're good speaker. I am not in favor at all of bees in the town. I don't know if, show of hands on council here, how many have actually been close to a beehive? Like literally
Oh, yeah.
worked beside them?
I've been around them, yeah.
I would not suggest, if my neighbor had bees, I would be very upset. And if this says you don't even need their permission, you just have to notify them, I would not be at all in favor of a beehive within my street.
That's fair.
And I don't see Tabor really having a shortage of bees. I think it's going to be a hobby for some and at the cost of neighbors. So I cannot support beehives.
And that's
in this
fair,
town.
Councillor Bruin, and again, no disrespect, but I think some of that is just not fully being educated, understanding the bees, because I was like that before. 6 months ago, I would have been exactly your feelings.
Well, I have worked beside beehives with, beside haystacks and that, and trying to strap a load of hay. You got bit multiple times.
It's interesting.
These aren't as nice as you think they
It's
are.
interesting watching some of the videos of some of these seasoned bee operators, and I wouldn't do this, at least not at first. They have no protection on, and they're in there lifting their hives out, and the bees are crawling over their hands, and they're looking at it like this, and the bees are swarming around them. They're putting it back in, and they have no protection. It's like, how are you that brave? But I'm not quite there yet.
No, I'm sorry.
But-
You can't convince me.
All right, Councilor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I was just wondering if there was any interest in having a beehive over at the community garden. Like if there's a site that we could have 5 of you have hives there, like can they all be in one spot or do they have to be dispersed?
No, they can be in one spot. I guess the one thing why I like from an urban perspective of sort of these spread out is as you get that concentration of what Councillor Bruin is talking about, at haystacks, these are probably where there's a commercial set of hives that are there pollinating a field, and there's probably as many as 40, 50, 100 hives there. Now we're talking, 1 million bees potentially just right there, and then you're going to get some of those bad ones coming out. But when we're down to 1 or 2, and that's why the restriction of 1 or 2, and that's a great idea, even though they're within that range, we could put, 1 or 2 out there. To your question of, they can be side by side, because again, this is the other fascinating thing. If I were to take a hive of bees and while all the collectors are out there and move it 5 feet to the side, those bees come back, they can't find that hive. They are so checked in on that location, they can't find that hive, they take off and die. And it's unbelievable. How these pheromones work in them, and they all go off the pheromone of the queen, and if it's not where it's supposed to be, they can't figure it out right there. So, yeah.
Well, as I said before, and means the fact that we have approved this for the educational perspective at St. Mary's School, and neighbors were consulted. I don't believe there was too much of a problem then. And means the fact, like I talked about, those hives have been set up just right at the Highway 64 and Trout Pond entrance, right there, technically in the MD. Zero trouble, zero complaints, and there's a pile of people that use that area. And
I love the idea of the community garden though too. I never even thought
yeah,
of that.
and that's just down the road, quarter mile down
Yeah.
the road, right? So that would be a perfect location. So is that something that would fit your mold here as far as that possibility?
Well,
as a
I
trial?
think you could have those, and you would, the problem with that, and we could get an association and build that up and have some there that maintain, but I don't think that would be our only option, is to just
the
to have
only
them
spot?
there, because it is nice,
Yeah.
again, to care for them properly. If it is in your own yard, you're able to see them and be able to
Right.
watch their patterns and be able to see what they are. There, we could have some, and just, we would have an assignment made through the association to be checking on them on a regular basis and see how they work. But, concentration too much, you have a lot of young kids in there too, and if there was a concern, that would, even though there wouldn't be, you would probably have to let everyone coming to work that was there, I guess, just in case from a liability perspective. But I love the idea of having them out there. And again, many of the hives in town are going to make their way out there. These guys go a long way to seek what they've got to seek now, especially that the trees are done blooming. So.
Right. So, yeah, all things considered, like I said, there's some very, Councilor Bruin's got some points, good points, but again, I think overall, like we have approved in the past, we've seen them in close proximity.
These bees
Doesn't
die
seem a
every
problem.
4 to 6 weeks. That's only their life expectancy is 4 to 6 weeks,
Right.
Councilor Bruin, so they don't last forever, but again, they do reproduce very quickly, and they slows down in the fall, and they try to survive, so. But I understand those concerns, it's fair.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, well, thank you again so much for your presentation, Ken. I think we'll have some more discussion,
Okay.
obviously.
All right,
And,
thank you so much.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Yep, thank you, bye. Thanks, Ken. I still love you.
All right, anybody want to start? There's a variety of options there. Yeah. So, Councilor Fru?
Thank you. I would be interested in finding out which municipalities in Alberta of similar size allow bees and what their regulations are. And just finding out if it's been successful, if they've had issues, and just to see if we can kind of learn from them before we jump
Right.
into this. But I am in favor, at this point, I am in favor of the 2-year trial. I think it'd be an interesting thing.
All right, thank you. Councilor Bruin?
If we go with bees, I want chickens in town.
Hey, well,
No, it's,
never say
what,
never.
what do you do if you have someone who's allergic to bees on your block? You don't have to,
Well-
they can't say, I don't want a beehive here. Oh, well, they can't have no say. You guys are opening up such a window here, it's crazy.
I think like Councilor Firth asked for administration to look into this for some comparables, and I think that's very smart and very, very reasonable for future reference. And I'm also leaning towards the trial possibility and some really good points. And
But a question though, when your neighbor doesn't want your next door neighbor to have beehives. Are we going to allow that neighbor to stop that guy from having beehives?
Well, I think that's somewhat comes out in this research for whatever Lacombe or other municipalities might do with that same question. Councillor Sorensen?
I like the idea of the trial at the community garden, and, you know, it's outside of the township, kind of, but it's still something that they can kind of practice on, see, you know, if they're able to care for them in a safe manner. There's tons of volunteers out there, so
Yeah.
we'll find out if
That's true. Town
people
limits. so-
find
yeah.
if it's a nuisance or not.
Right, thank you. Councillor Renfro?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So number 4 is that council directs administration to complete additional research as to what other municipalities are doing regarding beekeeping. That kind of covers what Carly was kind of saying. Now, somebody could, or I could add also to look into, you know, talk to the community gardens in the motion too, to give town a look at, you know, the ins town and look at that at the same time. Darren, does that make it should that be 2 motions?
Sounds a little bit cumbersome.
Yeah.
Just send us away if that's what you guys want to do, is to get us to do some research. We'll research everything that we can, including the pilot projects, including,
Okay.
we'll be as inclusive as we can.
Is
So
that
if I
like-
do number 4, that's how you're saying, okay.
Yeah, just to clarify what Councilor Bruin asked, and then it's a reasonable ask, as far as what if somebody's got some young kids or as adults they're severely allergic and they got a major concern, what do you do? Right, so. Brittany? Yeah, okay, sure.
I've just been looking a little bit into this since I got the delegation. I can't remember exactly what municipality it is, but one of them, if the neighbor comes forward with a legitimate concern, including medical, they'll be denied. So
Okay,
we can look into what that, yeah.
so if they're within such a, whatever distance proximity, then that would be denied because of that concern.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Renfro?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Same thing as Brittany, I looked into it a little bit, like Calgary has it. There's lots of places have it. Now, that's why I was saying, are the regulations so tough that, you know, all Calgary has it, but nobody can do it because they put something in there that stops it for everybody. So it is gonna be very like, you're gonna have a lot of regulations to it. So it is gonna limit to the guys like Ken.
Yeah.
That have to be very, very passionate. Chickens, I don't know if it's as limiting, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, chickens might not have as many limits, so you might have more people get chickens, which, you know, in lies a different problem, right? So I don't think they're the same, bees and chickens. I know they're not the same, right? But you might get a different person doing chickens and a different person doing bees.
That's right.
So we can't throw them all together.
But chickens aren't necessarily off the table either, but. Councilor Sorensen?
Yeah, my only concern is the policing of this, and at what cost is it gonna be to us as a taxpayer? Because, you know, 5 guys policing their own hives, you know, and like, someone's all gung ho, but maybe you're not, you know, 2 years down the line.
Well, these other municipalities must have dealt with that.
Yeah.
If they're allowing it, they must be dealing with that piece also, right? Mr. Tebow?
I just wanted to mention that, of course, Graham has talked about this with Ken, and Graham and I had a little conversation. If I were to put this in the same light as e-scooters, for example, because we have no bylaw, they're actually, policing is in a worse spot when you have nothing than if you have something, which I think is what Ken was trying to get at. Because right now, if someone's got a hive in there, there's nothing that says anything about not, like, it's harder to police that because there isn't regulations. When there is regulations, then you can bet they can be in your door and they can read them and they can say da 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 da. That's what Ken was trying to get at.
Oh,
It is a little bit easier when you have something to follow than nothing.
Right. And it sounds like you're just talking about, they're talking about responsible people that have this and have knowledge of this and have some background and experience, so combination, I think. But again, that has to fit. That has to fit the bylaw piece as far as others being exposed to that same dilemma, right? Has to happen. Councilor Renfro?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, if obviously number 4 ties into having something out at the community gardens, I guess I'm ready to make a motion that council directs administration to complete additional research as to what other municipalities are doing regarding beekeeping within town limits, and to provide a report to council at a future meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? All right, carried. Okay, thank you. Dealing with, media inquiries? No media inquiries?
There are none.
Okay, moving back into closed session for one item. Most to go into closed session, please. Councilor McLean, all in favor? Carried now.